He went to centre half forward. Oh! Filer puts the afterburners on, steps around from about 45. Stop it! And he's tipped it, has he? Yes, he has!
Hello and welcome to AFL Central Victoria TV. On this, our second edition, we'll take on a real coaching flavour. A little later on, I'll speak with the Director of Coaching for the Bendigo Umpires Association, Dean Goodridge, and we'll whip around the leagues of AFL Central Victoria. But my first guest tonight is the man right beside me. It's Rick Coburn, the outgoing coach of South Bendigo, and also the Football Development Manager for Central Victoria. Good evening, Rick.
Thanks, Trev. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks for coming along. Well, we might start off with the South Bendigo thing. The season unfortunately ended at the weekend. Sixth in a season where there was probably 6 genuine live chances to win the flag.
Oh, for sure. I think at the start of the year we didn't realise how close it was going to be, but as the year went on, I think it's had the most interest for maybe 10 to 15 years in the comp, which is fantastic. But unfortunately for us, we're the ones that miss out.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Someone has to miss out, and unfortunately it was the Bloods. Your fitness and form and maybe even availability of personnel probably conspired against you throughout the season.
Yes, for sure. We played 48 players in the seniors
That
this
many?
year. Yeah,
Gee
it
whiz.
was ridiculous. So certainly didn't help. But at the end of the day, that's an excuse, really. We had our chances along the way. We started really well at the start of the year.
Yep.
And we probably just needed to win one or two of those big games. And we had plenty of those opportunities in the second half and we didn't take it.
Yeah. Will the club be far away from announcing your replacement?
I'd hope it'd be as soon as possible. As soon as possible for the club and the players would be great. But I think they're still a little way away.
Given your role now with Central Victorian Football and WorkSafe Country, what was it? Vic Country?
Yeah, AFL Victoria Country.
Beautiful. That probably rules you out of helping them out and guiding them in their selection.
Yeah, it does. It's very important that I'm now looking at the whole region and all our clubs. I'm part of the breakup of the region. I've got 20 senior clubs myself that I should be working with right now, so it's important I move on with that.
Sure. Now, from your eyes, before we move to your new role, who's going to be the hardest to beat of the 5 clubs left standing? It's a tough call.
Oh, it's probably whichever way I go, I'll be wrong. No,
Well,
but I'd say that you'd have to give Storm some credence for finishing on top.
Yep.
So they'd have to be the early favourite. They're a very skillful side. They've got great structure. They're well coached. They'll be hard to beat. Very fast. On a hard edge, Golden Square and Eagle Hawk are very hard and tough sides that match up well. And probably Golden Square's got such a great midfield. Eagle Hawk's got a fantastic back line and a couple of superstars up forward. But then Sandhurst is one that right across the board is a very good side. Very tall, very mobile. Yeah, they'll take some beating as well. And then, of course, you can't forget Gisborne.
No, you cannot.
Final specialists in a lot of ways. So, look, I'll probably still go towards Storm, just mainly because they're new in the comp. And I think that a lot of people would like to see from around Victoria, see them do well. And they've finished on top, so they deserve favouritism.
Yeah, it'd be a great story to get from nothing to a premiership in 5 years, pretty much.
Yeah, amazing.
Extraordinary. We might flip to your new role with the Central Victorian Football Development Manager. Now, given your experience in both coaching and in education, seems a really good fit for you and the ideal chance to work in footy full time.
Yeah, I was always going to jump at the opportunity to work full time in football if I could. So this come along, was too good to knock back. I'd been at Spring Gully Primary for 11 years, teaching for 15. I was really ready for a change. Young family as well, and commitments with coaching and school and all that sort of stuff. So you can work a little bit differently in the football industry. So you can be a bit smarter how you use your time. And I've got a really exciting portfolio in front of me, and looking forward to working through it over the next few years.
Now, what's a typical week during the season entail in your new role?
It's quite diverse.
I would imagine it would be.
Yeah, anything from well, today's a really good example. I spent most of the morning in meetings with some of the commission and with Paul Hamilton and Tony McNamara and that sort of thing for most of the morning, and then a couple of clinics in the afternoon where I'm working with primary school kids, developing their ability to kick and catch and all that sort of great stuff. So, yeah, very diverse. Lots of school clinics, lots of development with club opportunities and committees and so on, and also some structural some structural things as well with the commission.
Now, what about out-of-season planning? I know you haven't come through that facet of a year yet in the role, but what are you expecting would happen for you once footy ends at the end of next month?
I'd say that very much that the last part of the finals, there's some commitments around there, of course, but it's probably a quiet time for us at the moment. It'll really get up and going coming into Christmas, and then after Christmas, January through to May, be really busy for us. We'll be setting up V-Line Cup teams. We'll be working on all our Auskick centres. We'll be working on getting our schools up and going with all AFL ambassadors and so on, and really trying to connect all of our schools with clubs, local clubs, creating real pathways.
Okay.
It's something that we're going to be really big.
Do many of those exist currently? I know there's a lot of Catholic schools that seem to find their way to Sandhurst and Teresa's, for example. Are there many relationships like that actually in place?
There's lots of very loose relationships, and I think one of the big things we'd like to do is tighten some of those relationships.
To formalise them a little bit?
Yeah, strengthen them, not weaken them. We're really keen for all our clubs to have a strong base, strong grassroots footy.
Sure.
We don't really want to see any participants missing out on a game of footy. So if we can maximise our school relationship with our local clubs, surely only more kids will get to play footy, which is what we all want. And then once we get them in footy, and we want to keep our retention rates a lot higher and keep our kids enjoying their footy and staying with the game right up through the senior footy.
It seems to be a key word for a lot of sports at the minute, doesn't it? Retention rates, particularly when you get to 16, 17, 18. Even sports like basketball are experiencing a drop-off in that age group. It's a hell of a battle.
It is, and there's a lot of competition, and I suppose in a lot of ways the other sports aren't necessarily in competition with us, so we'd rather our young people playing sport.
Yes.
So
and a lot of sports can coexist.
Absolutely, and there's off-season, winter season, summer season and so on, but I think it's really those kids that aren't active, the ones that haven't got a hobby, haven't got a sport, that AFL would like to make sure that we're giving them another opportunity. I think a lot of the time they might start in Auskick, or they might start in school footy, or they might start in early junior football, and for whatever reason they don't continue on with their football.
Yep.
We're probably just going to delve into a little bit of why that is and see if we can maximise that.
With your role as development manager, also Tony McNamara, who you mentioned earlier, does the same role. How do you guys share the load?
Yeah, we work really well together. Tony and I, we're quite different people. Get along really well, but we've got different strengths. So I think that we should really gel together well and be quite efficient, working in slightly different areas at different times. But most of what we've done, we've split most of our portfolio up with Auskick schools, fan development, AFL 9s, rep footy, which is a V-Line Cup, female football and coaches, which is the AFCA. We've split most of those areas up, either 70-30 to allow one person to slightly have a lead and the other person to be more of a support role. Right. And that's evened out along through those roles, which should make us more efficient throughout the region. Now,
one of the things you touched on there, which will be the last point we'll talk about, is the 2013 Bendigo Africa Coach of the Year dinner happening next Monday. A wonderful guest speaker coming down in David Parkin, who was probably who I think of when I think of a coach, being a Carlton supporter as a kid. Promised to be a wonderful night.
Oh, absolutely. And whenever I hear David speak, I still get intimidated by him. He's got such greatness about him. And
good word.
He is just the aura that the man has. Every time I hear him speak, I learn a lot. And hopefully, it looks like we've got a big number already coming. But there's still some seats available if people want to come along. It'll be a great night, and someone on the calibre of David, with his wealth of experience, is something that we're really going to be trying to do with Africa and the Coaching Association within Bendigo. Really try to strengthen that relationship with our coaches and really strive to be the premier coaching region in Victoria.
So the 2013 Bendigo Africa Coach of the Year presentation dinner happens Monday the 2nd of September at the Bendigo Club in Park Street, Strathdale. It's a 6 p.m. start, a 6:30 seating, I should say, after a 6 p.m. arrival. 2-course meal and drinks at bar prices there, $30 a head, to hear David Parkham and all his wisdom, and Paul Hamilton as well.
Yep, Paul is a great speaker as well. Those people have heard Paul before. He's fantastic. So you might even hear from myself and a couple of others. So, and as well as that, we'll have our Coach of the Year in senior, youth, junior and female announced. So there'll be some great, some of them are young and some of them are not so young. So a great range of people being awarded on the night for a great year or years of coaching.
Thanks for your time tonight on AFL Central Victoria, Rick.
Pleasure, Jack.
Our next guest on AFL Central Victoria TV is the Bendigo Umpires Association's Director of Coaching, Dean Goodridge. Welcome to you, Dean.
Thank you very much.
Finals time around the region, of course, massive for the players both in footy and netball, but also it's a reward for effort for all the umpires around the region.
It certainly is. We've been training since November and formal training started late January. So we've been training twice a week, and some umpires have been umpiring up to 3 games on a weekend. So it does culminate in finals, and it's certainly something that the umpires aspire to, is to get the best possible final that they can get.
Now, we'll talk about your training in a little minute, but your role as Director of Coaching, what does that entail?
So it's a coaching role, and I also am a running umpire as well. So I do a lot of my coaching out on the ground with umpires. I umpire with a young guy on the weekend, Marty Nador, a 17-year-old. I've umpired with him over the last 2 weeks. So I've done a lot of on-the-field coaching during the game, at breaks, after the game, during the week, in between games. And also it's around selection and running coaching sessions with the guys as well on a Thursday night. I have a fitness advisor, so I don't have to worry about the fitness side of that. I leave that up to him.
Okay.
And I have a chairman of selectors, so I have a role in selection. But the chairman of selectors is the main person there.
Now, I happen to be calling the game for Fresh FM that you umpired on the weekend. You had 2 umpires with you. Is that generally a sign that someone's in training if there's 3 central umpires?
For Marty, it was around development. Marty's was his 3rd senior Bendigo game, and he umpired really well the week before with me at Castlemaine in South Bendigo. So it was a bit of a reward for Marty, and just to put him in a game, a tough game like South Bendigo and Eagle Hawk. To see how he managed that, and we were really pleased with the way that he umpired.
Bit of feeling in that game at times too. How did he handle that?
Yeah, no, Marty's the one thing that I really like about Marty is his level of composure and the way that he manages players and responds to players. So that was really, really important.
Fantastic. Now, you did mention too, of course, we do have a game a week go up on IPTV through Limelight Video, and it's got the Fresh FM quill on it as well. So check that out. But that is also a great tool for you guys.
Certainly is. 80% of my coaching is done around video footage, and all that video footage comes from Fresh FM and through Limelight. So, as a coach, I'm really appreciative to have that tool there, and we focus on different areas every week. A couple of weeks ago it was marking contests. We've had holding the ball, holding the man. Even match management type of things, some skills that umpires need, but we also used it at a What's Your Decision night with our coaches and our clubs from around the area, and that was very, very well received.
Now, for the man on the street like me, when I watch a footy game or an EPL game like I was watching on the weekend, watching the ref pace up and down the pitch, how far do you guys run in a game?
Well, Marty Nadord had his GPS watch on Saturday, and he told me after the game he'd run in excess of 12 kilometres.
A lot of Ks.
Yeah, in a 3-umpire game. In a 2-umpire game, some of the boys, Johnny Howarth, has told me that he's run up to 16 Ks in a game. So 16 for 2 and around 12 for 3.
Think about that in your day-to-day life, running that sort of period. In that sort of time, if I go for a 30-minute run from my house and come home, I can't make any sort of decision. So it's pretty impressive stuff.
Well, then we have to back up to on a Sunday. I did 2 under 16 games, and I would have thought that I probably ran 20k on Sunday. So all up, around 30k's for these old legs was probably a bit much.
Now, given that you train twice a week, what's
do.
a regular session entail? And is there extra running to be done as well during the week? But by the sounds of what you've just told me from the weekend, there's probably not.
For me personally, I don't do a lot in between training sessions, but there are some guys that do extra stuff. I try to have a very strong pre-season starting, at the start of November and do a lot of long, slow work in the pre-season. But our training starts at 5:30 on a Tuesday night, goes through to 6:30, 6:45. And then on a Thursday night, we start with a coaching session, which goes anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes, followed by a half-hour running session, which is just, it's a light session. We want umpires to have fresh legs going into games on Saturdays and Sundays.
Sure. Do the boundary umpires and goal umpires all train with you?
They do. The boundary umpires train with the field umpires, and the goal umpires train separately. we're looking at changing that a little bit next year and focusing more on the fitness side with some of our goal umpires.
Okay. Now, you had former Carlton and Essendon midfielder Jordan Bannister, of course. He's now one of the elite AFL umpires. Visit around 2 months ago. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Jordan came up and took a training session for us. I asked him to focus on managing players, and he spoke and talked a lot around player management and the importance of building really positive relationships.
So by this you
players.
mean on the ground during game time?
And after the game, before the game, striking conversation, pinpointing maybe a player each week to have a chat with before the game. So he focused a lot about that, and I reckon a lot of our umpires took a lot out of that.
Do you have a look at the way he operates in that environment in an AFL game, what he might say? Of course, we do hear a lot through miking through Channel 7 these days. Are you able to sort of keep a track and get some ideas out of that?
Yeah, well, Jordan actually shared a few scenarios with us and how he goes about it, and identifying one player each week was the way that he went about it. And I think a lot of umpires since then have really focused on trying to build better relationships with players, but also club officials and coaches.
Yeah, excellent. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of this one, but the Sandful had their first female central umpire officiate in a seniors game a couple of weekends ago. What's the involvement like for girls across Central Victoria?
We've got Paula Shea as a field umpire running with us at the moment. Paula's been running in under 18 level, and a couple of reserves games. Paula's improved beyond all belief this year. Her fitness has improved, and she's really been a lot more actively involved. So I'd like to think that Paula will continue to climb the ladder. We've had Jade Daly, who has been on loan to us from the amateurs, who actually has only umpired 2 games with us, but's trained with us. She's done B grade down in the amateurs, which is a big effort. We have a couple of female boundary umpires and quite a few female goal umpires. So there's some good involvement with our females.
Always room for a few more?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Now, local product Tristan Burgess too, he's gone all the way to be part of the Elite 33 AFL umpires. It's a wonderful endorsement for the local pathway.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Tristan's doing a great job. Had to work really, really hard. It wasn't put on a platter for him. He had a few knockbacks and had to, be very resilient. And all credit to him. He's a terrific guy, Tristan. And I had the pleasure of observing him in a number of AFL games up here in Bendigo for the Bendigo Gold. And he's an outstanding umpire with a really, really bright future.
Now, we're about a week and a half away from the first of the grand finals around the district, the Loddon Valley Grand Final, and of course grand finals in the ensuing weeks after that. Tell me a little bit about the selection process with the grand finals. Are umpires only going to sort of get one key grand final, or do we see a bit of a selection process in the build up to the Bendigo grand final?
Well, the guys have actually taken ownership of the criteria. They've developed the criteria. So it's around, obviously, match performance is number one. We want our best umpires out on the ground. Fitness, availability throughout the year, making sure that umpires have umpired every week or most of the weeks, been available at training and participated at training, and the way that they've responded to feedback as well is another criteria. So by and large, umpires will umpire one grand final. You wouldn't see umpires doing more than one grand final. Like you wouldn't see a senior umpire do the Loddon Valley grand final and then the Bendigo grand final as well. So we try to spread that around. But they're the criteria that we use.
Again, a bit of a reward for effort and sharing the love, I guess, almost.
Yeah, definitely, and fiercely competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your time tonight, Dean.
No worries.
Best of luck on the whistle right throughout September.
Thank you very much.
The Director of Coaching for the Bendigo Umpires Association, Dean Goodridge. Before we go, let's go around the grounds in AFL Central Victoria. In the Bendigo Football Netball League, Strathfield Say Storm have finished the home and away season as minor premiers, while South Bendigo was the unlucky side to be squeezed out of the final 5, finishing 6th after their loss to Eaglehawk at the weekend. However, their full forward Justin Madden has claimed the Ron Best medal, booting 67 goals and beating Eaglehawk's Matthew Gretrix by 6 goals. A tight final series will be on the cards, and the elimination final kicks off a great month of footy on Saturday night at the QEO. On the netball side of things, Gisborne have finished the season on top, dropping just 1 game during the regular season. The Bendigo Gold season wrapped up on Friday night, unfortunately with a record loss to VFL flag favourite Geelong. whilst Alex Magan has won the Nick Carter Medal as the best and fairest from Captain Stephen Strubens and Daniel Toman. Remember to pledge your support at bendigofc.com to get behind the Bendigo Gold going forward. We caught up with Bendigo Thunder captain Emma Walder's last edition, and it's great to congratulate her, Russell Jeffries, the coach, and everyone involved at the Bendigo Thunder on winning the VWFL Northwest Division 1 Grand Final. So well done to everyone involved at the Bendigo Thunder. Finals times here in the North Central Footy League as well. That looks very tight after Charlton finished minor premiers, but the title race is wide open with St Arnaud, Witchyproof, Narraport and Wedderburn, all with legitimate flag claims. In the LVFL, Bridgewater have won in extra time 1 week and then last week by a point over Bears Lagoon Serpentine to progress to their grand final. They'll go for 4 flags in a row against the winner of Bears Lagoon and Pyramid Hill. Alexander Collins became the first 100 goal kicker in Central Victoria at the weekend too, booting 6 in that win. So well done to Big Axel. And Pyramid Hill, well, they'll be trying to get past Bears Lagoon Serpentine as well and into another grand final. And finally, the 2 main HDFL title contenders, LBU and Huntley, face off this weekend in the second semi-final for the first spot in the grand final. The loser to face either Heathcote or North Bendigo in a preliminary final. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook at AFL Central Victoria. That's it for another edition of AFL Central Victoria TV. Thanks for your company, and remember, on the court and on the field, play fair and have fun.